Now, the work of the Auditor General as that independent public officer that reviews the work of government departments or any enterprises in which government has an interest is twofold: financial audits and value for money audits. So from time to time, you will see a special report of the Auditor General on a project or an enterprise to look at value for money. Is it achieving what it was set out to do? And that is the direction that Auditors General around the world are moving to in large measure. Now, one of the challenges from a very technical point of view with the audits and the Auditor General's, well, not the report, but the audit process in Barbados, is that under the Public Finance Act of 2006-7, around there, they adopted some standards called the International Public Sector Accounting Standards, IPSAS, as the accounting standard for Barbados. And that required that we move from the traditional cash accounting to what is called accrual accounting. And before getting too technical, just to say that the way that the same transaction is treated may be different in cash versus accrual. So in basic cash accounting with government, you accounted for all your monies coming in, all your money's going out, and you were good to go. With the new standard, you have what, for example, we call revenue recognition methods, and you have to apply your revenue in a certain way. You have to make estimates of expected losses, revenues that you may not collect. You have to put the valuation of your assets in place. So you have to value roadways, public cemeteries, public parks, and so on and so on. So there's a whole of government approach. So central government plus the statutory entities should be able, in a perfect world, to give you a good valuation of what the government's assets and liabilities and so on are, apart from the actual money that is being spent. Now, in the audit process, auditors have rules to follow, and audit could only be done properly following the audit rules. And the Auditor General follows the ISOTI, International Supreme Audit Organizations, or whatever that body is called. They have their own Auditors General international body, their rules, their annual conferences, there's training. And just as the case with private sector auditors and people running companies, the two are in the same space, but sometimes operating, how should I say? Let me put it a different way. If you're following the accounting standards, so the Auditor General, given that the law says IPSAS is the order of the day, all of his audit and his analysis of what is before him, does it conform to IPSAS or it does not? So before any money being stolen, before anything going wrong, you could be incorrectly recording the information from an accounting perspective. So in the old cash system, maybe you bought a small item, a $3,000 photocopier, and you might expense that one time. I bought it this year, it appears this year as an expense. Under these new rules, it may be that an accounting policy says, we will treat things under $1,000 as cash items. We buy them, we put them in the same year. Things over 3 years, things over $1,000, we amortize. And you have to follow those rules. So the money is safe, it's gone where it's supposed to go, but just recording it incorrectly is a point the auditor has to flag as incorrect. The failure to do bank reconciliations or do them in a timely and a consistent manner. A lot of technical flaws, unfortunately, still occur. And the other big one that occurs, there was no audit information. Now, the Auditor General has to walk by sight and not faith. Your private auditor of your company, no matter if he went to school with you, if you all play on the same cricket team, and according to modern rules, he will probably recuse himself because there'll be a conflict as far as independence is concerned. So, yes, we know that PS so-and-so or Chief Financial Officer so-and-so is a good and honorable person. But if the Auditor General says, listen, I need to see the documentation that shows the approval of this travel by the environmental officer to the COP conference. he's gone, the travel agent has been paid, the money isn't gone into cyberspace, you know. But the officer did not produce the cabinet approval or whatever. The Auditor General could only say that there is no evidence of this having been approved. He cannot walk by your say so. So a lot of the things that are listed as unaccounted for, not explained, not supported by evidence, sometimes the officers come a day after the deadline and send it in. You haven't seen it. So there are a lot of technical issues, but that said, there's hope. But those are technical violations which, between the new legislation, continued training for public officers is working to correct. Unfortunately, that is the one area, or those things are the one area, which even though the minister, as a member of cabinet, is responsible for his ministry, he has no control, cannot tell anybody, do this or that. You cannot tell an officer how to write a receipt, what to write it for. You can give no directions of a financial nature. But yet, when the Auditor General's report comes out, you're responsible because it happened under your watch, it happened under your ministry. And it's one of those areas we have to look at. Finally, I will say this. Over the last many years, at the cabinet level, the cabinet has, when the Auditor General report comes out, directed that the accounting officers, the PS and the chief financial officers, write responses to the matters flagged by Auditor General. Those responses, however, do not usually get the same level of press coverage as does the Auditor General's report. There is a perspective which I heard a member of the press articulate. I'm not saying that that's the overall view, but I can understand it. There's a view that good news is PR. If you want it out there, you pay or you undertake your own PR. Bad news is public interest. And therefore, we will circulate your bad news for free, but your good news, you need to work on the PR. But take it wrong, you find it right. As successive governments at the level of cabinet, we have not always understood how communication and the news media and so on works.